Why is identity important? In fact, why is it perhaps the single most important technology to understand and learn to influence? Well, to understand that, we have to create a graph or a pie chart of human behavior, of human interaction. Now, to make this personal, let's zoom into my day. Let's zoom into your day. So, I have a routine. I get up, I do meditation, I check email, I attend to my crew, I look at my dreams and ideas, I go for a walk, I'll often make a video like this, I buy food, I write something and try to sort something out, make sense of something during the day. I drive to my job site. I eat food. I take a bath. And there's not a ton of stuff left. If you look at this pie chart, if you look at the chart of 95% of the human population, 95% of the time, you will find that it is a pattern. It is a cycle. First this, then repeat. First this, then repeat. First this, then repeat. So you could say that my life is largely defined by this pattern. This pattern has more influence on my life than perhaps anything else. Now, one could certainly argue that gravity has more influence on my life, or at least has equal footing. If one day gravity decides to change and the law that large objects attract small objects flips, and now large objects repel small objects, well then we all float off into space and our routine is irrelevant. But within the subset of all the assumptions that we make about physics and all of that, if we look at who I am, what I accomplish, what I say, what I think, how I feel, if we look at my reality and my experience of reality, the vast majority of it is determined by my routine. And a routine is simply a pattern. And the pattern that I identify with, that I say, that's me, I do that. I am the one who does this and thinks this and says this and feels this and is like that. That's me. Then you can see that the pattern, the routine, the identity is perhaps 90% of my reality. And it also affects my future, probability and possibility and actuality. So my future is created by this pattern. I could have a pattern. I get up, I kill someone. Then I work out how to take an ounce of blood from my finger. And then I go out and study how to ruin people's lives. And I could do that. And, at the end of the day, hard work studying and doing all this, I've gone through my routine, and that creates a very different possibility field, probability field, and actuality. It's a completely different world that starts to emerge. out of the routine, out of the repeated habits and patterns. So identity is a pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being that defines 90% of human behavior, that guides and predicts 90% of human behavior. And produces the majority of our future probability and actuality. You take a people. Just imagine if, for a moment, we changed the identity, the pattern, of 5 minutes a day in the entire culture. What if a core pattern, a core piece of our routine and identity was to plant 1 tree every single day, or to facilitate 1 tree being planted? It's $1 a day, in most cases. What if that was a pattern, and 400 million people every single day put $1 or 5 minutes of their time and went out to an open knoll, a field, and just planted a tree? It's not a very big part of the identity, just 5 minutes a day. But very quickly, all the smog would leave our cities. The global warming phenomena would disappear, because we'd be planting billions and billions and billions of trees in a steady habit. No question. Get up, stretch, get up, plant a tree, right? Well, this is the power of identity, because identities are self-reinforcing and self-referential. You could ask all these people worried about trees, did you plant a tree today or yesterday? You're worried about global warming. Did you plant a tree? Did you donate $1? No. Why not? Well, that's not me. I don't know. That's not my habit. That's not what I do. Why? Why do you do this? You're not very happy, but this is who I am. And that's why I do it. I don't know what else to do. That's not me. This is me. I sit and watch Netflix 8 hours a day, right? Or whatever it is. I do this, I do this. That's me. This isn't me. Well, if 5 minutes a day can change the ecology of the entire planet, can determine how many millions of people die of respiratory diseases, whether or not an entire species of fish stops existing at a slightly higher temperature, whether or not an area of an ocean is covered in algae because, again, combination of, just the pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being that is the identity that we identify with, that we choose as our routine, determines 90% of all human behavior. Now, we do a few little novel things within that identity. And maybe one day we go to a tree planting event, we plant 3 trees, or we give $10 to some person knocking on the door, and that's a novelty. It's not an identity. It's not a pattern. And we think, oh, that's nice. And because it's a novelty, because it's in this little area that isn't something we identify with, that we don't make part of our routine? Well, it's just nice. We ate healthily, at this one party, or we invested a few pennies into our retirement account, but it's not part of our routine. We learned something. We watched a documentary rather than a horror flick, and we learned something. But, that's not what we do. We watch horror flicks. We eat at McDonald's. We watch TV. We buy bigger cars every 5 years. I identify, attach with a pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being. That's me. And I do it because that's who I am. And I am that because that's what I do. That's what I say. That's what I think. That's what I feel. So 95% of my existence is determined by my pattern, which means that the world that I generate is primarily determined not by my novel thoughts here and there, but by my habitual patterns. Now, human beings are currently perhaps the dominant species on the planet. As such, what human beings think, feel, speak, do, and how they are affects the ecology more than perhaps what a polar bear does, thinks, feels, and does. There's not that many of them. As a result, the future we create for ourselves, the future we create for the other species on the planet, the ecology and its nature is more dependent on our identity, on our habits, on our patterns, than any other thing on the planet. And the habits are the unquestioned portions. I do this because I do this, and that's why I do this. And I do this because I did it before, and I did it before because I saw other people doing it, is usually how it goes. And so that's what I do. So if you can change one habit in that circle in which 90% of what you're doing is habit, and you do it this way rather than this way, you change one habit, you change it carefully. Now, intelligence measures the efficiency with which energy is transformed into human well-being, sustainable well-being, or intelligence is measured by the efficiency with which you and I convert energy into sustainable well-being. And so if we very carefully sculpt something into a routine, a 10-minute morning meditation rather than a 10-minute worry about what's going to go wrong today, that 10 minutes over time has far more impact than thousands of novel ideas, a few of which get acted on from time to time. In that little bit of, oh, that's interesting, and then goes in one ear and out the next. One change in a habit affects your personal probability field. And at a national level, and at a species level, I mean, imagine a world where 7 billion people planted 1 tree a day, 7 billion trees. $70 billion trees in 10 days, 70 billion trees in 10 days. 210 billion trees a month. You can enjoy all the gas guzzling you want, as long as the oil lasts. If you're planting 7 billion trees a day, if you're reclaiming 1 square foot of desert a day. But that would have to be a habit. And that habit doesn't just come out of nowhere. It relies on value hierarchies. And it relies on assumptions. It relies on paradigms. The paradigm of being a consumer, how is planting a tree consuming anything? It isn't. So it doesn't fit my image. It doesn't fit my identity. The identity, the pattern that I'm fixating on, is not compatible with planting a tree a day. I am a consumer in a cult of consumers, and so I consume. I consume media, and I consume things. I do what the identity dictates. I do what the pattern establishes. And then my little uniqueness comes from, well, I watched this movie and then this one, and you watched that one and then this one. And I watched it at 8 p.m. and you watched it at 6 p.m. We're different. We're distinct individuals. But there's vast unconscious possibility and probability to the left and right of our routine. And so the bottom line is identity as a science, as an awareness, as a technology, as a habit, as a pattern, is the single most important influence. It is the single biggest influence on our lives, on the lives of those around us, and on the planet as a whole.